Hello everyone, we're in Pirkei Avot, third parak, Mishnah 2. This is going to be part 2. We did the first little bit. Now we're going to be turning to the rest. It's a long Mishnah, so just bear with me. Okay. So Rabbi Chanina ben Teradion Omer, Rabbi Chanina ben Teradion said, Shnaim shoshin ve'en benehem divrei Torah, harei ze moshav leitzim. If two sit together and there are no words of Torah spoken between them, then this is a session of scorners. Shene'emach, as it is said in Tehillim, the very first chapter of Tehillim, Uvmoshav leitzim lo yashav. Right? Nor he sat he in the seat of the scornful. Aval shnaim shoshvin v'yesh benem divrei Torah, shchina shchoya benem. Right? But if two sit together and there are words of Torah spoken between them, then the Shekhinah abides among them. Shene'emach, as the pasuk says in Malachi, as nidberu yirei Hashem ish el reu vayakshev Hashem vayishma v'yikatev sirach zikaron lefanav leyirei Hashem ulechoshvei shmo. Okay, so then they that fear the Lord spoke one with another, and the Lord hearkened and heard, and a book of remembrance was written before him for them that feared the Lord and that thought upon His name. Okay. So I've no scriptural proof for the presence of the Shekhinah except among two people. Right? How do we know that even one who sits and studies Torah, the Holy One, blessed is He, fixes his reward? We know from the pasuk that says, so it said, though he sat alone and meditated in stillness, yet he takes a reward unto himself. There we go. That's how we know. Now, what is this Mishnah coming to teach us? That is to say, the key, just summarizing quickly, so we see that if there are two people who are sitting together and there are no words of Torah, then it's a moshav leitzim. It's a session for scorners. Whereas if there are divrei Torah, then the Shekhinah abides among them. And similarly with one person, even if he's learning, then even so he still gets schar, right? And we have proof from a pasuk. What is the overall message here? Why is this important? Why does the Mishnah need to teach us this? So we're going to, no surprise here, but it's actually a pretty nice segue, connected this to Chanukah, because right now it is Chanukah, and let's see what we can learn from this. Now, Rav Bernstein in his Chanukah Sefer presents a question that is asked by the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat, right? It's in the section that is discussing Chanukah. It's about 3 daf overall, more or less. And the Gemara asks, "My Chanukah? What is Chanukah?" That's a funny question, and Rashi hones it for us. Rashi tells us, on what basis did the Chachamim establish Chanukah as a holiday? And the reason why that's a question is because it's true, there was certainly a miracle in terms of, there was the miracle of the war, there was the miracle of the oil, but there are many miracles in the Beis Hamikdash on a regular basis, and there are even many extraordinary military defeats or victories for the Jewish people that are recorded in Tanakh, that are recorded in Chazal. So why is it specifically, I don't know, we don't establish a holiday for them. I mean, it certainly happened. So why do we establish Chanukah as a holiday? Now the key here is, says Rav Bernstein, that Chazal did not create holidays just to commemorate miracles. They commemorated holidays where there was a lesson to be drawn for all time on a yearly basis, where we could tap into that energy and learn something from it. So what is the message of Chanukah? That's effectively what is being asked. Why is Chanukah a festival? What is it meant to teach us? Right? In terms of Maya Chanukah means, what is Chanukah? But what it's really trying to ask us is, why is Chanukah a festival? What is the key message here that we're supposed to take away? It's not the military defeat. In fact, if you look at the Gemara barely even focuses on the military defeat. It talks about how the Hashmonaim rededicated the temple, and we didn't have enough oil for 8 days, or we only had enough oil for 1 day and it lasted for 8 days. Wow. So why the lack of emphasis on the military defeat? That seems to be a huge part of what we're commemorating. As it says Rav Bernstein, that one of the focal points of the Greeks in fighting against the Jewish people, especially, again, bringing this into our Mishnah, is we see there's a whole idea of two people who speak Divrei Torah, the Shekhinah abides among them, is shruya amongst them. The Greeks, one of their sakanas, one of their gzeras, one of their decrees against the Jewish people was Kitu Lachem Bekeren Ashur, right on the horn of an ox, she'en lechem chelik be'elokei Israel, that you have no portion among the God of Israel. This is one of their key issues that they took with the Jewish people. The fact that the Jewish people said, we have a special portion among the God of Israel. The Greeks couldn't stand that. And so they made the Jewish people in their way, or they tried to make the Jewish people disavow that idea. So what is it about the Shekhinah that's abiding among the Jewish people? How is that the central message of Chanukah? So it says Bernstein that the fact that we're commemorating the miracle of the oil, right, especially in the Beis Hamikdash, is meant to teach us that the divine presence does in fact reside among the Jewish people. And so we see from this that combined with the miracle of the battlefield, that is to say, in the Beis Hamikdash, we see whether or not the Jew is in the Beis Hamikdash, is in the temple, or if he's on the battlefield, or anywhere else in between, the divine presence resides among the Jewish people. That is the message of Chanukah. That is why the Chachamim established it as a festival. That is what's so important. And this is why we express our gratitude in the Al Hanisim prayers to show that we're grateful for the fact that God resides amongst us. And what's also interesting to note is, if you look at the Al Hanisim prayer, Chanukah is talked about as Yom Tovim, or it's in the Gemara. It's one of those two, but we talk about the Yom Tov of Chanukah. Now, what's funny about that concept is when we talk about a Yom Tov usually has the prohibition of Isser Malacha. There are many activities that you cannot do. It's almost like Shabbat. And if that's true, then, if you look at Chanukah, and actually Chanukah certainly appears to be the least, the way, I like the way Rav Bernstein says it. Chanukah imposes itself least on the day. Now, certainly we have, the prayers are a little bit longer, and we of course light lights at night, but otherwise, you could go through Chanukah and perhaps not even notice that it is Chanukah. But that, says Rav Bernstein, is exactly the point. That's exactly the point of Chanukah. It's not that this is like an easy one, it's an easy day off. No, it's the fact that we are supposed to go about our regular day, doing our regular activities, and carrying with us the message of Chanukah. The divine presence resides among the Jewish people. Wherever we go, whatever we are doing, God is with us. And in fact, the Gemara tells us that, again, in Shabbos, Masechet Shabbat, that you're supposed to have the mezuzah on your right hand and the menorah on your left. So what's the idea there? So it says Rav Bernstein, quoting the Chidushi Harem, who is a Hasidic Gadol, he says, that's because it's not that the mezuzah is on your right and the menorah is on your left as you go into your house. It's that when you go into your house, your mezuzah is on your right. When you leave your house and go into the world, the menorah is on your right. The menorah is your mezuzah out into the world. Because it's supposed to teach us that wherever we go, don't think that's okay. Look, I'm going to act all holy and like a Jew at home, and then once I leave the house, that stays at home, and I can go about and do my thing. No, look at the menorah. The menorah is your mezuzah into the world. The divine presence resides among the Jewish people. God is with you. God is with you when you go to work, when you go to school, when you go traveling, whatever it is that you're doing, God is with you. And in fact, one of the Rishonim, the Rabbeinu Ephraim, says that there's a pasuk in Devarim 28:6 that says, Baruch atah bevoecha uvaruch atah b'tzetecha. Blessed shall you be when you come in, and blessed shall you be when you go out. Says Rabbeinu Ephraim, Baruch atah bevoecha, this corresponds to the mezuzah. V'baruch atah b'tzetecha, this corresponds to the lights of Chanukah. It's amazing. So we see that there's support for the Chidushi Harim's idea based on the words of a Rishon, who's basing it on the words of the Torah itself. I would say that this is ultimately an absolutely key aspect of Chanukah. Now, bringing it back into our Mishnah, how do we get here? We spoke about how two people who are sitting together and there's no words of Torah amongst them. That's a session of scorners, of scoffers. But if there are words of Torah, then the Shekhinah abides among them. What's the idea? This is a very interesting halacha that talks about how it's literally in the Shulchan Aruch. It's 670, Sif Bet. It says, right? So all of these seudas, these parties that we have, they're optional. You actually we are not chayiv to have a seuda on Chanukah. Right? Right? This is not a part of Chanukah. You can if you want, but they're not obligatory. Says the Ramam, who's the Ashkenazi commentator on the Shulchan Aruch. So one of the things he says is, right? So we have a minhag to sing songs and praises for Kodesh Baruch Hu at these Sudas, as have a Sudat mitzvah. So says Rav Bernstein, it's a bit of a funny catch. Look, it's either a mitzvah or it's not a mitzvah. Make up your mind. Is it a mitzvah or not? Don't tell me, oh, it's not a mitzvah, but if you sing about and sing songs about Chanukah and praises for Kodesh Baruch Hu, then it turns into a mitzvah. What's going on here? Says Rav Bernstein, this actually is the message of Chanukah. A person is going to go sit down and eat. The question is, what's he going to do at that meal? It can either just be nice, a bunch of latkes and sufgan yod and good food and hanging out with your friends. But if you're able to take that same event and elevate it and lift it, take something that's physical and mundane and turn it into something spiritual by singing these Chanukah songs, by the way, in terms of what they connote, at least the ones in the siddur, there's a lot of depth to what's going on there. It'll have to be something for another time. But once we do that, then effectively what we're doing is we're connecting our physical actions and connecting them to God. And that turns it into a mitzvah. That is the message of Chanukah. That is one of these messages of Chanukah, perhaps the message of Chanukah. And we'll leave you over there. We'll see you next time. Oh, and so that is how it connects to this Mishnah. Because you have two people. They could either be talking about nonsense or nothing, but if they're able to at least incorporate Torah into their conversation, then we see that again, the Shekhinah dwells amongst them. Even when you're relaxing and you're hanging out with a friend, the fact that you just kind of organically and naturally bring up a word of Torah means that we feel connected to Kodesh Baruch Hu everywhere and always. Right? Chag Chanukah Sameach. We'll see you next time.